Welcome to another edition of BadgerBeat, the weekly look at the UW football team. Badgers headed to Ohio State on Saturday night, coming off the tough loss at Michigan State. Tom Mulhern, what do the Badgers have left to play for at this point? A lot of people are throwing everything out the window.
Yeah, in terms of the Big Ten conference race, it's still all there right in front of them. And that's one of the beauties, I guess, of division play. Their first year in division play, we'll find out. But they still control their own destiny. They went out in the Big Ten in their division, and they likely have a good shot at seeing Michigan State again in the Big Ten title game and have a chance to be in the Rose Bowl and a BCS game.
And Andy, stepping back from that nationally and individually, what do you see still out there?
Well, we've seen so many things happen in the world of the BCS, the crazy world of the BCS, that I don't know how you can rule Wisconsin out of any discussion about a national championship. Yes, it's far-fetched, but we've seen upsets happen. We've seen teams like Alabama, LSU of that profile lose. There's a lot of time left. Wisconsin still has a lot to play for nationally, but their margin for error is absolutely positively gone. They've got to run the table. They've got to do so impressively, and if they do so, they can get back in the picture.
This week game, it's a lot the same challenge. You're heading into a really hostile atmosphere at Ohio State, a place where you're gonna see the best out of the Buckeyes in this game. Tell me, what do you need to see the Badgers do to rebound and going into this game?
Well, it's a similar challenge, you're right, against another really good defense, and so I think Wisconsin's offense has to clean up a few mistakes. I think, that's the first time that they've really made a lot of mistakes, but at the same point, they scored 31, so I think a lot of the challenge will be on Wisconsin's defense and how they respond, and it's really up to the quarterback with Ohio State. It's all about Braxton Miller and his progress. They're coming off a bye. You would think that they're starting to look a little bit more like the Ohio State of old, at least I would think this week.
Andy, Columbus, a historically tough challenge, and there's some other numbers that don't favor the Badgers in this matchup, correct?
Well, anytime it's rare to play Ohio State when Ohio State is not ranked, but Wisconsin has done so, I believe, 14 times up to this point, and it has won once. So that rankings can't enter into this. But what I would look at too is that Wisconsin is famous for its 1-0 mentality under Brett Bielema. I think at some level Brett looked at these two games, had to look at Michigan State and Ohio State as putting brackets around them to prepare for them. So I think whatever emotions they may have lost at Michigan State, they have to be. They knew this was coming. They're prepared for this, and I would expect them to play better than they did against Michigan State.
A lot of the spotlight this season has been on Russell Wilson, rightfully so. He had an up-and-down game on Saturday, and I think that a lot of people, by the time they're down 14 points, had kind of written him off in a lot of ways and said he wasn't quite ready for this. What did you see out of him? Can you assess what you saw and where you expect him to need to step it up this week?
Well, I don't think the first interception was his fault. I think Nick Toon made a wrong adjustment on that. He faced a defense with a pretty good pass rush that really pressured him. And, I think Paul Chryst said it best yesterday when I talked to him is they don't come back and tie that game up without Russell Wilson. And I think the way he played the fourth quarter is already a good indication going forward of how he's going to respond to this loss. And, it was one thing to have him and everyone talk about his leadership skills the first 6 weeks when everything was going great. Well, they need him now more than ever, and I think he'll respond to that.
Andy, what do you think about the characteristics you've seen out of Russell and where you think that he might draw from to come back from that?
Well, I just think he's done a lot of things professionally and as an amateur and had success, dealt with difficulties. He made a big choice to come here to Wisconsin. He understands that this is not going to be an easy thing to do, and this is his first deal with adversity. And from what I've seen, the way he conducts himself and the way he works with his teammates, I think he's going to be the consummate leader this week.
And you were talking before about how you wouldn't throw Heisman out either, in addition to the national championship hopes.
Well, I'm going on precedent here. If you go back to Ron Dane's senior year, Ron Dane had a critical fumble at Cincinnati. They lost the game. The following week, he was held under 100 yards against Michigan, and they lost the game. And he still won the Heisman because he put on an extraordinary finishing kick. And if Russell Wilson plays that way down the stretch, he can win this Heisman. It's not a foregone conclusion that he's out of it.
That'll do it for this week's show. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to coverage all week on madison.com.